Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Friday, December the 30th, 2025. Hope everybody's had a good week this week. We head into the weekend. Of course, as always, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. If you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to uh, comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, of course, yeah, I know I'm running a little late today. Been kind of a step behind, as it were, today. Got up late, all that. So, but as always, sometimes when that happens, I just simply push the show back an hour. You know, start a little later, still get it in. Nonetheless, said we're just going to go ahead and give people a chance to come in before we get started. I'm going to put the music on for a moment while I go camera here real quick. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Oh, anyways, we're just waiting for more people to show up, as I said. Anyway, oh yeah, actually, knew what I was trying to look for there. Alrighty then, let's see now. Oh, we're actually already past. Okay, 3.5 minutes coming up on 4 minutes. I guess I'll talk about what's on tap tonight then. So with little news going on this week, obviously, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what going to kind of preview some of the. So as I've mentioned before, MeTV Tunes right now is in the midst of a special holiday package in which they're showcasing Christmas specials on Saturdays and Sundays throughout November, December here. This weekend, of course, they got a number. They've got a few, featuring, of course, the Misers, Puppy, the Cabbage Patch Kids, and Inspector Gadget. We're gonna, of course, just take a quick peek at all those, kind of, see what you can watch. Of course, MeTV Tunes has its Kids this season for Tunes specials Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, and Sundays at 5 Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. So if you guys want to catch it, if you guys get MeTV Tunes, might want to try to catch those. Talk about what's going to be going down. And then we have actually quite a bit of wrestling news to go over in terms of the wrestling wrap up. Not just looking back to last night's, of course, Ring of Honor and Impact events, as I just found out, today that tonight TNA and Ring of Honor will be actually hosting their own pay-per-views. You got Final Resolution going on tonight for TNA, while Ring of Honor will be showing Final Battle. Both the final pay-per-views of 2025 here for the respective companies. We'll look ahead to those. We'll look ahead to, of course, tonight's SmackDown, WWE SmackDown, as well as tomorrow's NXT pay-per-view breakdown, and tomorrow night's Collision. So quite a bit there, and then we will, of course, wrap things up with this day in each history. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started here then. And again, one last friendly reminder before we move on here. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. I'd be appreciated. That goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. And if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So with that being said, let's go ahead and pull up an article that we'll be going over tonight here. Oh, quickie, not even really an article, just some information, but so if you happen to have Me TV Tuned, which I recommend you get if you don't have it, because it's got some great stuff on it. Let me take a look at this. So Me TV Tunes did the season for Tunes Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, and Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. So season greetings from Me TV Tunes. We have made a list and checked it twice for the best festive cartoon episodes. As the only TV network destination dedicated exclusively to classic animation, we are celebrating our first holiday season with 2 months of holiday cartoons. Each weekend heading up to Christmas, we will air themed programming from Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, Casper, and many more of your favorite cartoons. So let's see what they've got going on this weekend for tomorrow, Saturday, December the 6th, and Sunday, December the 7th. All right, so the first thing here is at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, a Me TV Tunes special, A Miser Brothers Christmas. Santa Claus and the Mischievous Brothers, Heat Miser and Snow Miser. Like, I believe we've seen Heat Miser before in some of the Rankin Bass specials. Are the targets of Yuletide treachery. So that goes about an hour. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 Pacific, The Story of Santa Claus. The special presents an origin story for Santa Claus, who is depicted as a man named Nicholas Claus, who wishes to give every child in the world a gift for Christmas. The elves of the North Pole become obligated to grant his wish, facing great obstacles. Now, the story of Santa Claus, this particular special, I believe is the one they featured in one of their recent news articles here. It's probably the one that has, like, the late, great Ed Asner and the late, great Betty White providing the voices for. Let me see. Yeah. By Ed Asner in The Story of Santa Claus. So, now, Ed Asner, of course, has done his fair share of voice acting before. I know from Hudson on, I believe he was Hudson in Gargoyles. He was J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man the Animated Series. So he's lent his voice before, but hearing him as Santa Claus, that might be interesting. if you haven't heard that before. Now, for most people, as we all know, for those of us who grew up particularly in the 70s and 80s, um, the voice of Saint Nick has always been Hal Smith. You know, he was lent his voice to Santa Claus throughout a number of Christmas specials, um, including, of course, the Yogi's First Christmas and um, a Flintstones Christmas. Um, so, with that, of course, let's see. So, we read the. So that's all on Saturday, and then I guess that will end at about 8 p.m. Eastern, I guess, because they go up to about the start of. Now on Sunday, December 7th, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. Inspector Gadget saves. So there, Inspector Gadget had a couple of quote unquote winter Christmas specials. Inspector Gadget saves Christmas. So when Dr. Claw tries to take over Santa's workshop, it's up to Inspector Gadget to stop him. Then, of course, at 5:30 p.m., so that was on MeTV. Then at 5:30 p.m., the Inspector Gadget pilot episode, Gadget in Winterland, aka Winter Olympics. So Gadget is on holiday at the Winter Olympics, where Dr. Claw plans to sabotage the games by replacing the torchbearer. Gadget also faces the Mad Yodeler and a Yeti-like Snowbot. All right, so that's at 5:30, 4:30 Central, 2:30 Pacific on Sundays, and at 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific. The Cabbage Patch Kids' First Christmas. The Cabbage Patch Kids go to a big city so they can find the Christmas spirit. Now, of course, maybe some of you are a little bit younger may not know who or what the Cabbage Patch Kids were. Back in the 80s, they were basically a bunch of, they were a set of dolls who were set to have basically been grown out of a cabbage patch. For those of you who don't know what a cabbage patch is basically farming, basically where you can, grow cabbages. So, anyways, continuing on here. And so that's at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, 5 Central, 3 Pacific. And then at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, 3:30 Pacific. The puppy wanted a boy. The puppy dreams of having an owner for Christmas. Your typical lost dog looking for a home story. And at 7 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 Pacific, which I believe might also be just an hour long. The Christmas Cartoon All Stars episode. These, of course, are the these are basically the Christmas themed. So Cartoon All Stars is when it's a kind of an anthology program a bit where they have a bunch of different cartoons from the different companies. They'll have like a Looney Tunes, an MGM, Fleischer / Famous, Walter Lane, all that. Have a little bit of everything in there, and then these are obviously these are the Christmas themed episodes. Let's see if we can find out just what they might be showing this Sunday. Let me see if I can find. The Night Before Christmas from 1941. Frigid Hair from 1949, which I believe would be a Warner Brothers cartoon. Then True Boo, 1952. That's probably a Casper cartoon. Well, actually, in fact, let's go ahead. It is Christmas time, and it's Christmas Eve, and Tom gets to know the spirit of giving after he tosses Jerry outside in the cold. So Tom and Jerry cartoon, A Night Before Christmas. I actually think might have just watched that recently too. Frigid Hair, Bugs Bunny makes a wrong turn on his way to Miami Beach and ends up in the South Pole, where he runs into some trouble with the natives. Then we get True Boo, and I believe that's a Casper cartoon. Yeah, Casper pretends to be Santa and makes Billy toys out of household items. Then you have Bedtime for Sniffles. That's a classic. Sniffles the mouse tries to stay awake on Christmas Eve so that he can meet Santa, like a lot of little kids do, right? They want to see Santa. And you got, let's see, Season's Greetings, 1933. That's a Popeye cartoon. Let's see. Popeye and Olive Oil go ice skating, and all is well until Bluto arrives, and then Ski for Two from 1944. Woody sneaks into Wally Walrus's winter lodge without a reservation, disguised as Santa Claus. So you got a couple of Warner Brothers cartoons there. You got obviously a Fleischer cartoon, a Famous Studios cartoon, MGM, Walter Lantz right there, coming up on this Sunday. Alrighty then. So, anyways, let's see. Now, if you guys have any memories you want to share, of course, of maybe some specials that you watched growing up. Like, I know for me, one of my all-time favorites was Yogi's First Christmas. With Dawes Butler as Yogi, Snagglepuss, Quick Draw McGraw, and you got Don Messick in there as Boo Boo and Ranger Smith. You got John Stevenson as Doggy Daddy. I think Augie Doggy was Dawes Butler as well. And then, of course, you got the late great, you got, of course, Janet Waldo, I believe, played both Cindy and Sophie Throckmorton in that. And then you had, Marilyn Schaefer doing the voice of Snidely. Oh, Don Messick, of course, also did Herman the Hermit, and then you had Hal Smith, of course, doing Otto the Chef and Saint Nick. Quite a cast of characters there for Yogi's First Christmas. Anyways, let's see. Albeit it's a little early, I think I will do the because there's just so much to go over. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the wrestling wrap up, as we do have a lot to talk about. As last night, of course, you had probably the go home episode for both TNA Impact's Final Resolution and Ring of Honor Club's for Ring of Honor's Final Battle. So from last night's TNA Impact, this is what all went down. Brooks Jensen of NXT with Lexis King in his corner defeated the hometown man in just over 5.5 minutes. In a number one contenders match for the TNA Knockouts World title, Xia Brookside defeated Danny Luna, continuing Danny's frustration of late. Xia Brookside will now be challenging her tag team partner in the Angel Warriors, Lei Yingling, for the TNA Knockouts World title coming up on tonight's episode on tonight's Final Resolution pay-per-view. Mike Santana defeated Robert Stone in 36 seconds. Mustafa Ali defeated Trey Miguel in what I think was setting up a match between Order 4 and the Rascals. And now you have all four of them back together. The Rascals, as Desmond Xavier made his return recently. And of course you also have Myron Reed, Zachary Wentz, and Trey Miguel. So that's going to be an interesting. And then in the 8-man tag main event, you had NXT and the NXT Heritage Cup champion Channing Lorenzo teaming with former Heritage Cup champion Lexi King and Tyreek Igwe and Tyson DuPont defeating the TNA team of Cedric Alexander, TNA International Champion Steve Macklin, and the TNA World Tag Team Champions Jeff and Matt Hardy. So that's all on the Go Home show for Impact. So now let's talk a little bit about what went down on last night's Ring of Honor show. By the way, I'm sorry. Let me go back real quick. So the Impact show, of course, was on Access TV. Came from Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida. And now Ring of Honor Honor Club, coming from the Fishers Event Center in Fishers, Indiana. Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni on commentary. Opening match saw Commander with Alex Abrahantes in his corner defeating the Beast Mortos by DQ. Then in a mixed 6-person tag match, the premier athletes of Story Denali, Arya Davari, and Tony Nese, with Mark Sterling in their corner, defeated the team of Philly Collins, Zoe Lynn, and Marino Tenagala. Cindy Hakim defeated Rosario Grillo in 4.5 minutes. In another 6-man tag match, Dalton Castle and the Outrunners of Turbo Floyd and Troth Magnum defeated a team of Ashton Adonis, Jake Oman, and Josh Crane. Ashton Adonis. I'm going to check something here. I think I did check this. All right. Now, after this match, of course, from what I understand, I believe Dalton Castle was attacked from behind by AEW National Champion Ricochet, and that match is now set, I believe, for tonight's final battle, as well as Dalton Castle will be challenging Ricochet for the AEW National title after Ricochet just won it in the tournament recently. Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta of the Death Riders defeat the Real Twins, Damian and Damon Real. Then in a non-title match, you have 13 belt Monet. Among the belts she currently has include the Ring of Honor World Television and the AEW TBS title. She defeated Lovely Miss Larkin in 34 seconds, and then in the two Ring of Honor Women's Pure Title semifinal matches. Deonna Purrazzo defeated Queen Aminata via forfeit. And then Billy Starks defeated Yuka Sakazaki in 10 minutes, 43 seconds. So, that's all that went down on the Go Home show for all that went down on the Go Home show for Ring of Honor. Now looking ahead to tonight. First off, for Zero, so prior on YouTube, prior to the main event on Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni on commentary, coming from the Greater Columbia Convention Center in Columbus, Ohio. Ring of Honor will be holding, of course, Final Battle. On the 0 hour pre-show, you had the Outrunners of Turbo Floyd and Truth Magnum set to take on the premier athletes Aria Davari and Tony Nese, with, of course, Mark Sterling and Story Denali in their corner. In a women's match, Layla Gray is set to take on Zeta Steel. Zeta Steel, coming off of her recent release from WWE's Evolve program, now, of course, having a chance to wrestle on. And then Ace Austin of the Bullet Club will be taking on Lee Johnson of the Swirl. The main event will be in a tag team match on the main event of the pre-show here, of the 0 hour pre-show. Grizzled young veterans of James Drake and Zach Gibson will be taking on the Death Riders duo of Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. And now for the Final Battle event itself, which will be on ringofhonorwrestling.com, with, of course, Ian Riccaboni, Caprice Coleman, and throughout the show, of course, John Moxley had joined them on commentary, also coming from the Greater Columbus Convention Center in Columbus, Ohio. Let's see. You will. So the first match is the finals to crown the first ever Ring of Honor Women's Pure Title match. As Deonna Purrazzo will be taking on Billy Starks to see who will become the first ever Women's Ring of Honor Women's Pure Title. In a non-title 30-minute Ironman match, the men's Pure Title champion Lee Moriarty takes on Ring of Honor Hall of Famer Nigel McGuinness. Eddie Kingston is set to take on Josh Woods of the Premier Athletes in a match for the vacated Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships, tag team titles. The Los Faction Ingobernables duo of Sammy Guevara and Beast Muertos will be taking on the team of Tommy Billington and Adam Priest. As mentioned earlier, Ricochet is set to defend the AEW National title against Dalton Castle. In a match for the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team titles, Shane Taylor Promotions of the Infantry, Carly Bravo and Sean Dean, with Shane Taylor, will be taking on the team of Skyflight, of Scorpio Sky and Top Flight of the Martin brothers, Dante and Darius Martin. Mercedes Moné is set to defend the Ring of Honor Women's World Television title against Red Velvet, the former champ, as Red Velvet is calling in her contractual rematch. And then Athena is set to defend the Ring of Honor Women's World title against CMLL star Persephone. And in a survival of the fittest match for the Ring of Honor World title, Bandito is set to defend against Beast Muertos, Hechicero, Sammy Guevara, Commander, and Blake Christian. So that will all be going down on tonight's final battle. So now we'll also look ahead to TNA's final resolution, look at some of what's going on there tonight. As on TNA's, on the countdown to final resolution, coming from the El Paso County Coliseum, El Paso, Texas, with Matthew Rainwell, Tom Hannafan on. So on the countdown to final resolution that aired on YouTube, Eric Young, the former TNA World Champion Eric Young, is set to take on Prime, Cedric Alexander, and in a 6-man tag match, the latest incarnation of the Andersons, Brock and C.W. Anderson, team with Bear Bronson to take on the System's Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, and Moose, with Alicia Edwards in their corner. Now on the final resolution itself, let me go grab that. On the final resolution pay-per-view itself, here are the matches that are on that will air on TNA Plus tonight. The Rascals of Trey Miguel, Myron Reed, Desmond Xavier, and Zachary Wentz will be taking on Order 4 in an 8-man tag match of course, Mustafa Ali, Special Agent Zero, and the good hands of Jason Hotch and John Schuyler. In a match for the TNA Knockout World Tag Team Championships, the Inspiration of Cassie Lee and Jesse McKay defend the titles against Tessa Blanchard and Victoria Crawford. In a street fight, the complete Matt Cardona is set to take on Mance Warner, who will have, of course, in his corner, Cardona's former valet and now Warner's, Steph DeLander. And this one here is a surprise to me. I couldn't believe this when I saw this earlier. In a match for the TNA X Division title, Leon Slater, who is the current champion, will be defending against AJ Francis, who will have Rich Swann in his corner. Now, mind you, of course, they always say X Division is not about weight limits; it's about no limits. And we have had big guys, big guys hold the X Division title before. Of course, guys like Samoa Joe and Abyss. But usually, most of the time, the guys are pretty good athletes. I mean, Francis is an okay athlete, but he's not exactly somebody who you would think, because the X Division, for all intents and purposes, generally speaking, is considered more like a junior heavyweight, cruiserweight type title. Usually meant for the smaller guys, the high flyers. And we know, according to Joe Hendry, anyways, that AJ Francis got banned from diving for obvious reasons. Then in a singles match, former TNA World Champion Mike Santana will be taking on the NXT's Charlie Dempsey. In a match for the TNA International title, Steve Macklin will be defending against NXT's Heritage Cup champion Channing Lorenzo. In a match for the TNA World Tag Team titles, the Hardy Boys, Jeff and Matt Hardy, will be defending against the team of Ty DuPont and Tyreek Igwe. In a battle of the Angel Warriors for the Knockout World Tag Team title, or Knockout World title, Lei Ying Lee will be taking on Zaya Brookside. And in the main event, Frankie Azarian is set to defend the TNA World Heavyweight Championship against JDC of the System. So this will be the first time we've seen JDC in kind of more of a main event program in quite some time. I guess we'll have to wait and see how that all turns out. So that's all what's going on those two shows. Now, of course, WWE, as they continue their march towards um, next Saturday's Saturday night's main event, they also have an NXT show going on tomorrow night. We'll get into that in a moment. But let's look ahead to tonight's SmackDown, see what will be going down there on tonight's SmackDown, since I get the information. So coming up on tonight's SmackDown, of course, which will air on USA Network, and will be coming from the Moody Center in Austin, Texas. The finals of the Last Time Is Now tournament to see who will take on John Cena at next Saturday's Saturday night's main event will take place, as LA Knight will be taking on Gunther. There's been a lot of talk about this match, as the speculation is Gunther will be the one to end up in that match, but a lot of people would probably prefer LA Knight. Now, it was also announced that John Cena has basically asked for next week's Saturday night's main event, John Cena's last match, that his match actually go open the show. Now, normally, most tribute shows or most retirement shows usually have the person who's in question who's retiring. They usually will be in the main event, but John Cena has stated that he wants to focus on the future. Rather than having an entire show where they look back on his career and then end with him being in the main event, he wants to open the show and then focus on younger talent. So we don't know what other matches, aside from the winner of the Last Time Is Now tournament here, will be set to take on John Cena next Saturday at Saturday night's main event. But we'll have to just wait and see how that all comes out. Ilya Dragunov, of course, will issue another open challenge for anybody to challenge him for the United States title. In a non-title match, WWE Women's Champion Jade Cargill will be taking on Alba Fire of the Secret Service, as Jade Cargill laid out the Green Regime last week. Chelsea, and in the main event is Kairi Sane of the Kabuki Warriors will be taking on Alexa Bliss in singles action. So that's all going down on USA Network tonight. Let's see. So that's all that's going down on tonight. So now, let's talk about what's going to be going down. So tomorrow night, we got a couple of things. AEW's Collision, as well as, first off, let's do the WWE one, because tomorrow night, WWE NXT brand will be having a pay-per-view as well. Breakdown. Tomorrow's Breakdown, Deadline. NXT Deadline will be happening tomorrow night. PLE from the Boeing Center at the port in San Antonio, Texas, on Peacock. Matches scheduled for the night include Ricky Saints defending the NXT title against former champ Obafemi, the Ruler. In a match for the WWE NXT North American Championship, Ethan Page defends against Mr. Iguana of AAA. In a women's match, Tatum Paxley looks to get some revenge on Izzy Dame after Izzy Dame turned on her. Cost her the NXT Women's Championship. And then the main events will be the Iron Survivor Challenge matches. In a number one contendership Iron Survivor Challenge match for the NXT Women's title, have three-time TNA Women's Knockout Champion Jordan Grace taking on former Speed W Women's Speed and Women's NXT Women's North American Champion Sol Ruka, also taking on Lola Vice, also taking on former NXT Women's Champion former TNA Champion Kalani Jordan, and current Evolve Champion Kendall Gray. In the men's number one contendership Iron Survivor for the NXT title, you have Joe Hendry taking on Miles Bourne, taking on TNA X Division Champion Leon Slater, taking on Javon Evans, taking on Dion Lennox. So that's what's going down tomorrow night's Deadline Premium Live event on Peacock. Let's see now. And then we also have tomorrow night of course, we will also have AEW's Collision as they continue to build towards World's End at the end of the month. So tomorrow night's Collision. Tomorrow night's Collision, which will be coming from Columbia, Ohio. Or from Columbus, Ohio, the Greater Columbus Convention Center. Let's see, Ricochet, I guess, depending on if he, of course, wins tonight and retains the title tonight, will be defending the national title again. And, of course, in the Continental Classic, you'll have 3 Blue League matches as Roderick Strong will be taking on Orange Cassidy. There's a little tension there as Roderick Strong's been feeling, I guess, a little jealous of the fact that Kyle O'Reilly has been hanging out with his conglomeration buddies instead of with him. And he hasn't been too keen on the idea of kind of joining in on the fun, as it were. Then another Blue League match, of course, Claudio Castagnoli of the Death Riders will be taking on CMLL All-Star Mascara Dorada. And in the main event, we'll see former 4-time AEW World Champion Jon Moxley taking on current IWGP World Champion Konosuke Takeshita. They continue again to build toward World's End at the end of the month. All right, so with all that action going on and stuff, that's all we got for the wrestling wrap-up. Oh, let's see now. How's it we got? La 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 la. Alrighty then. So with that. All right, so I guess then it's a good time to move on to the last portion, of course, of our show. Today is, of course, Friday, December the 5th, 2025. So why don't we go ahead and take a look back at this date in Nietzsche history. History! So let me just do 1985 15. Let's see, 1985 and 2020. All right. So first off, I'm going to head back 40 years ago, as on this date 40 years ago today, back in 1985. In its penultimate issue, the 70th issue of the Best of DC, with, of course, Blinky's Buddies on the cover there, went on sale on this date back in 1985. It sold for $1.50, was 96, or the $1.50, 96 pages. The Barbara J. Kessel / Randall as the editor. Of course, among the features you have in this include, of course, Blinky, Malibu, Scooter, Blinky's Buddies, Debbie, Buzzy. A lot of these are older characters from the past. I'm guessing these are most likely reprints from stories from back in the 60s and 70s. But on this date back in 1985, 40 years ago today, the penultimate issue of the Best of DC, issue number 70, went on sale on this date back in 1985. All right. So now, anyways, we're going to go on that. And 1985 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. And I'd also like to wish a happy 40th birthday. Wish a happy 40th birthday to voice actor Kyle McCarley. Now, of course, among other credits, of course, he took over the role of Iruka Umino in Naruto Shippuden, and of course continued the voice in Boruto, Naruto Next Generation. Aside from that, he's also, of course, I believe he's in Mob Psycho 100. He's Shigeo Kageyama, the lead role there. Mikazuki August in Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans. He's also Shinji Mato in Fate Stay Night, Ryota Watari in Your Lie in April, Narancia Gurga in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Vento Ora, Joe Shimamura in Cyborg 009, Call of Justice, Helbram in Seven Deadly Sins, Mark Unseal. And so happy 40th birthday to Kyle McCarley, the American voice actor Kyle McCarley. So now we'll move on to the year 2015 as we mentioned happy birthday to one person. Another person, unfortunately, sadly passed away on this date 10 years ago today, back in 2015. So let's go take a look at that. Former ECW star Hack Myers passed away on this date back in 2015 at the age of 41. So his real name, Donald Haviland, was an American professional wrestler better known by his ring name Hack Myers, a mainstay in the Florida independent promotions during the 1990s. He was best known for his time in Extreme Championship Wrestling from 1993 to 1996. Usually he'd be one of the guys who would be in one of the opening matches, kind of on the lower end, more of a preliminary wrestler. He'd get now, because this was again an independent show, even though he was primarily more of a enhancement talent or preliminary wrestler, he would probably get more wins than you might see some of the guys in the WWF or WCW preliminary guys would get. course, he lost a loser leaves town match to Too Cold Scorpio in his final appearance for ECW at 1996's November to Remember. After leaving ECW, Hack remained in the wrestling industry training like the Black Nature Boy Scoot Andrews. Scoot Andrews was the guy who wrestled more on the East Coast independent scene, and of course Travis Tomko, who many of you might remember from his time either in WWE or in TNA, usually in close proximity to Christian Cage. On November 16, 2015, fellow wrestler Axel Rotten, who trained Hack Myers, tweeted that Haviland Myers was going to undergo brain surgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital. On December 5th, 2015, Rotten tweeted that Haviland had passed away. So, about almost 3 weeks after he went in for the surgery, unfortunately. So, on this date, 10 years ago today, at the age of 41, Hack Myers passed away. Probably from complications of the surgery, I would imagine. All right. So now, as we move ahead to the final piece of niche history, as it were, we move ahead to the year 2020. On this date in the year 2020, Signal MD's Fate Grand Order Camelot Wandering Agaterum premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 2020. So 5 years ago, part of the Fate series, in this particular case, the Fate Grand Order series. The first part of a 2-part movie series premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in of course, it's all based on the game and stuff like that. So let me see if I can find the specifics. Okay, so a 2-part film adaptation titled Fate Grand Order Divine Realm and Round Table Camelot was produced by Production IG and Signal MD, adapting the 6th chapter of the game. Yukio Kodachi wrote the first film script, and Keita Haga and Hideyuki Fukusawa composed the film's scores. Kei Suezawa directed the first film at Signal MD, while Kazuto Arai directed the second film at Production IG. Both films feature. All right, so basically on this date, 5 years ago today, the first half of this film series premiered in Japanese theaters. All right, so with that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, we'll be back here with more niche news on Monday. Of course, Sunday will be we will be, of course, I'll be joined by Sabrina from Double Flyer Momentum fame. She'll be joining me as we take another trip down Comics History Lane. We'll be looking at books that went on sale in July 1940 from Centaur. We'll be looking at a lot of the final, it's kind of funny, that month, of course, the first issue of Arrow came out, but also the final issues of Keen Detective Funnies, Amazing Adventure Funnies, and Amazing Mystery Funnies, and Funny Pages. All those books completed their run as you start seeing kind of Centaur, which will which would close its doors in 1942. Be looking at such features as as the ICs. Let's see. Trying to remember which ones did I pick out. The ICs, EYE, featuring the I. We're looking at the Arrow story from Funny Pages number 42. We'll be reading Lieutenant Link, and then Terry Taylor story. Not the wrestler, but is a common character. Snatch report or something like that. So we got all that on Sunday. Of course, I'll get you all caught up on Monday on all the. Oh, one more piece of AEW news, of course. AEW may be in trouble because of the merger going on between, or the acquisition of WB Discovery by Netflix. As AEW, of course, is currently running Dynamite and Collision on the TBS and TNT networks of WBD. But with Netflix getting control of those, and Netflix, of course, being the home of WWE programming, there are some questions of whether or not AEW may be able to retain those broadcast contracts. They may end up having to start up their own streaming service. They kind of have with the Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor Honor Club and all that. But that's something else that was going down too. And of course, don't forget the the specials coming up over the weekend here on MeTV Tunes, as we talked about earlier. Some of those Christmas specials for the Tune In With Me Tunes, Tis the Season for Tunes specials. Of course, on Saturday, starting at I believe 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, with, of course, the Miser Brothers Christmas. Then you have the story of Santa Claus. Then on Sunday, starting at, of course, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific, you have some Inspector Gadget specials. You have Inspector Gadget Saves Christmas, Gadget in Wonderland, the pilot episode of the Inspector Gadget series. Then you have a Cabbage Patch First Christmas, Puppy Wants a Boy, and then, of course, the Cartoon All-Stars Christmas special as well. So as we're basically just under 3 weeks away from Christmas, so I recommend you guys catch some of these great Christmas specials that come out. There are a few, like Yogi's First Christmas is always one of my favorites. Another one involving bears that I like that came out back in 1971 was Santa and the Three Bears. That one's kind of a cute little one as well. So you guys might want to check it out if you've never seen that one. Kind of a similar theme to like Yogi's First Christmas, where in this case it's a couple bear cubs who want to stay up to see Santa Claus, and their mother just wants to their mother just wants them to go to bed and go get to hibernating. So and then of course got Flintstones. They have a number, including they have Christmas Flintstone from the original Flintstones cartoon show, and then you have a Flintstones Christmas. And of course, there have been a number of different iterations of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Jetsons did one. The Flintstones did one. You'll probably have Casper's First Christmas. Scooby Doo's done a few Christmas specials, including the Nutcracker Scoob. Alrighty then. So with all that being said, I recommend you guys try to catch some of those and the Rankin Bass specials as well. Some of the great, Christmas specials that are out there. They're always fun to watch. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here on Sunday. Bye.